This week's In My Mug comes from Kenya and comes from Kiriga, and it's the AB. I'm back in Has Been Towers. How awesome is it to be back on the set and recording this week's In My Mug? As I said at the opening, this week's coffee is Kenya Kiriga, and it is the AB screen size. So I'm going to let Virtual Steve tell you all of the bits about Kiriga. What I'm going to talk about is the AB. So the AB is basically the size of the bean. It goes through some screens to be sorted. And back in the day, everybody thought that AA was the best, which is the larger beans. AB was the next, Peabury was the next, and everything below that was just no good commodity, the rest. What we found is actually the coffees can be really interesting and different on their bean size, but not necessarily better. Last year we had this C grade from Kenya, which would traditionally just be thrown into anything, but we actually separated it out and cooked it, and it tasted amazing. So we brought it in, and we've always had a good selection of AAs and ABs just because they give you that little bit of difference. You might be wondering what I was doing at the start. So I had the In My Mug sent to me when I was in Sweden, and I've come back and I didn't want to fill my suitcase full of coffee to bring back for it. So I don't have the coffee because we're roasting it for you on Friday and I'm recording this the day before. So I thought, why don't I just put it in the BeeMore and do some home roasting? Home roasters are a thing that we used to do a lot of here at Has Been, but unfortunately the approval for them disappeared. But we've been working on this for like 9 years, to get it to the point where we can start selling the roasters again, and we are, and they're on the website. Home roasting is fun. With home roasting, you get to decide when it is fresh. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to grab some that was a sample roast that was done a week ago, and I'm going to test it against the freshly roasted one, and we're going to look at the differences when it comes to the tasting. Fun? Trying to do something a bit different. But let's go to Virtual Steve and find out more about this coffee. Kiriga has been a coffee farm since 1954, but it came into the Gakungha family in 1976. First of all, was owned by Mr. A.N. Gakungha, who sadly passed away in 2014. And by the time of his death, Mr. Gakungha had passed his love of coffee on to the family, and in particular, Dr. Brian Gakungha. Brian is the second child and eldest son of 6. And Brian is named after Mr. Gakungha's father, who was his grandfather and pioneered coffee farms in Kenya. Brian is very well known in the circles around Kenya, as he was part of the Kenya auction board and was his honorary secretary to the Kenya Coffee Producers Association. And is very vocal in making sure that farmers get the support and help that they need. He was also a board member of the Transitional Exchange Committee and has been part of the Asian Coffee Farmers, Africa Coffee Farmers Network. Kiriga sits around about 1,500 metres to 1,650 metres above sea level, and it's approximately 5 kilometres from Thika town, which is known as an industrial province of Nairobi. It's 4 kilometres from the Blue Post Hotel, which has the famous Chania and Thika Falls, and is around about 50 kilometres from Nairobi. Kiriga is predominantly SL28 varietal, but also has a little bit of Riru 11, some K7, and some SL32 as well. And around about 60% of the coffee from the estate is AA or AB. So what Steve was talking about earlier, the sizes of the beans. So let's go through some of the numbers. It is from Kenya. The county is Murang'a. The constituency seat is Gatanga. The nearest town is Thika. The farm is called Kiriga. It's owned by the Gakungha family and managed by Dr. Brian Gakungha. The altitude is 1,550 to 1,650 metres above sea level. This is a washed. It is an AB size, and the varietal is SL28, Riru 11. And Steve is roasting coffee, so we better go and see what he's doing. Okay, so we're just going into first crack. I'm going to bring you a little closer to listen. Now with Kenyans, you see there, we're just kind of hitting that crack. With Kenyans, you want to roast them fairly lightly. Hello, man walking in the background.
Hello, man in the foreground.
And the first crack is where the exothermic reaction starts happening in the coffee and it starts forcing the bean open. It generates heat, so you have to be careful. And I'm actually we wanted to stop this a little sooner than the program will allow. So I'm gonna go into the cooling cycle in now. Now that's the beauty of home roasting, is you kind of learn how to get the flavours that you want in your coffee. Not the one size fits all. There is not a correct roast, just as there's not a perfect brew or a perfect coffee. And home roasting allows you to do those little changes. When I first started getting into coffee, this was the kind of thing I did. Well, I did this in a frying pan to start with, then a popcorn hot air machine, and then went into a little home roasters, and then big roasters, and then even bigger roasters. But this is perfect. I have one at home. I really like it, and I thought it would be fun to do. So what I'm going to do is going to come back in just a second, and we're going to taste the coffees. Okay, so we're going to get into this. Here we have the week-old Kenyan that's been sitting in a bag up here that was a test roast. And here we have my B-more roast, which was done 10 minutes ago. You can tell this one is from the B-more because it was so fresh. There's so much CO2 and liveliness in there. It's kind of frothed over the top. So let's get in and try the week-old. So you get that a real kind of sharp blood orange kind of flavour to it. It's very sweet, but has that unmistakable blackcurrant flavours that you expect from a Kenya. But what's the difference between the one that was done 10 minutes ago? So it's more intense. It's more, whoa, it's in your face. Can you have brewed coffee too fresh? Lots of people will say yes, I will say no. Now, can you have espresso too fresh? That's a little bit different. You do get just a little bit too much liveliness in there, and a little bit, the crema can bubble a little bit. But for brewed coffee, I love drinking as fresh as it can be, because what you do is you just get a more intense experience, a more magnified experience. I'd love to hear in the comments if anybody has different experiences or have different thoughts on it. But we've lived in this old coffee must rest thing without a great deal of research or science behind it. And I don't believe that I'm right, and I don't believe the people who say it needs to rest are right. I believe that you can make your own choice from your own perceptions, and that's definitely my point of view. I'm going to try the coffee just to make sure from the cupping it tastes the same. Yeah, you definitely got that like real kind of tart blood orange. It's so clean and transparent, and you just get that burst of blackcurrant at the end that is absolutely fantastic. This is one of my favourite farms from one of my favourite people from one of my favourite countries. So I hope you are enjoying it at home. But please do remember, life is too short for bad coffee.